I can give you a few statistics. One is that children are seeing, on average, about 28,000 television commercials a year. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's impossible to measure all of the advertising they're seeing, whether it's the brand licensing that's so popular now, where any television program like SpongeBob or Dora now has 1 million spin-off products from it, whether it's toys or food or clothing. So in fact, the show itself is a commercial. The whole show is a commercial for this whole line of products. And there's advertising in schools and there's billboards, and so it's impossible to measure all of the commercial exposure that kids are getting. But what we do know is that in 1983, there was about $100 million spent on marketing to children every year. In 2006, the last year that we have a figure for, there was $17 billion. So in a span of 23 years, it went up from 100 million to 17 billion, which is just a staggering increase. And so now it's really, 24/7 children, just about every moment they're awake, they're exposed to some form of commercial message, including whether they're in school and their friends are recruited to market to them. And so it's just a constant barrage. Well, they're getting more than they're buying for, or they wouldn't be doing it. I mean, these are smart companies. They're not spending $17 billion to not get way more than $17 billion back for their investment. And it's not what they're doing. They're spending this money for three reasons. One, they're spending it to get the kids to buy stuff themselves. Two, they're spending the money to get the kids to influence their parents to buy things. And they've actually done studies to figure out how can they get kids to nag their parents more effectively for these items. And so that's getting kids to influence parental purchases is a huge part of this. And the third thing they're trying to do is establish brand loyalty. They're trying to get them to want Coke or Pepsi at an early age, because once they establish that brand preference, they're a Coke or a Pepsi customer for life. And so it's not just about getting that sale at that time. But I think one of the things that we were talking about the other day is in terms of the pressure coming from parents. There's a tremendous pressure on parents to keep up with consumer society and wanting all of this stuff for themselves, but also for their children. And so it really takes a tremendous effort, a tremendous amount of courage to kind of step back from all this and not participate in it, because it's all around you. You stick out if you don't. If you have a birthday party and it's not a birthday party where you're spending lavish amounts to give gifts at the goodie bags, and it's a theme party based on some media character, or you're spending a lot of money if it's a girl to go and get girl makeovers. I mean, these are birthday parties that are happening now for 6-year-old girls. They go and all get makeovers together. If you're not doing that, somehow you've become the strange person and the outlier. And so I think there's a tremendous amount of pressure on parents to keep up with other parents and what's going on with other families, and not, and they don't want to feel like they're, strange parents somehow, or let's face it, un-American. I mean, this is one of the ways we express our Americanness it's through conspicuous consumption, and there's tremendous pressure on parents that filters down to the kids, and really all of this stuff is reinforcing the message that the way we participate in our society is by buying. A lot of people are really ambivalent about some of the commercialism and the materialism that they have internalized, and I think a lot of people see it as a threat and they feel like they're being judged. And so I think it's one of the things is just to do it in a way, it's just the manner that you do it in a way that's not being judgmental, and making it clear that it's, you're not judging the way that they're raising their kid, but that you have a real concern that the values that you want your children to learn as they grow up are not the values that they're going to get from things. That their values of whatever your values are, for a lot of parents, it's values of community, or values of spiritual values, or values of just taking joy in other children and outside play and nature and things like that, and that the commercial pressures are really antithetical to the values that you're trying to instill in your children, and and it's tough because it's hard to say those things without other people taking it as a judgment. And I think the other thing to point out is that it's also, that this is backed by science. We know that kids that are exposed to more marketing are more likely to be obese. We know that kids that are exposed to more marketing are more likely to be more aggressive from being marketed violent toys and violent media. We know that marketing is a factor in the sexualization of children. And so, this isn't just a values issue, it's also it's a public health issue. And there's data that shows that people who are more materialistic are actually less happy and more likely to be anxious and depressed. And the whole idea, there's actual data. There's a guy named Tim Kasser who's done a lot of studies about this, a psychologist. The whole idea that things make us happy has actually been empirically proven that it's not true, that people who have that orientation are actually less happy. I don't have data about it, but anecdotally, it's just amazing. I mean, and at Christmas, the Christmases that I've seen, there's the gifts from Santa Claus, several gifts from Santa Claus, and then there's several gifts from the parents, and several gifts from the grandparents and the aunts and uncles, and so it ends up, the Christmases that I've been to, it ends up with kids maybe getting 30, 40 gifts. And you can see, you want to see about things not making them happy. There's this tremendous excitement as they open each one, and there's this diminishing returns that I've seen where, the first one there's tons of pleasure, and by the time they get to that 20th gift, the pleasure lasts for about 10 seconds when they open that gift, and by the end of the day they're cranky and there's no pleasure and there's no time to play with all of these things. Half of these things are going to be thrown out or go into landfills or end up never being played with. And there's just simple things that parents can do. Giving less gifts, taking toys out of the rotation, and so you don't have to buy more toys. Put a toy down in the basement for 6 months and then bring it out and it's a new toy, and something that they played with a year ago, and it's still, they're still not too old for it, but it's refreshing, and it's not having to buy all these new things over and over again. And I just think and this is a case of advertising working both on the children and on the parents. The holiday season has now extended to first it extended all the way back to Thanksgiving. Now it's starting pre-Halloween almost, or the day after Halloween and it's being drilled into the kids and into the parents, and the amount of credit card debt that parents are going into at Christmas time is causing incredible stress on these families, and the pleasure that kids are getting from 25 toys as opposed to 2, I'm not sure that they're getting any more, and maybe even less.